we're going to go ahead and pull this out of here because the crane or the gantry that I have in here is over by that leg is over by the Bridgeport, and I want to get over there on the next piece. So we're going to go ahead, and while we have this in position, we're going to pull this out of here and change chucks back, and then I can slide everything over, and then we'll have the freedom over at the Bridgeport. All right. Normally you'll see whenever I have my chuck wrench where I put it when you hear that noise, and I only keep the one that I'm working with. This has a hex on it for the 4-jaw, and then my rack over here has got the square one that holds for my 3-jaw. My tooling for this is pretty much over here. I do like racks. I've had racks up behind the lathe, along the backboard or whatever. I've become very accustomed to it actually being right over here to the left-hand side, and everything is at just to reach all the this is just basically all the common stuff. If I have to pick out something out of the ordinary, I'll go over and I try to keep that in a box and stuff. I try to keep this minimalized. This builds and collects junk just like every other place in the shop when you let it. You have control for a certain amount of time, and then you got the I don't give a, and then it starts building from there. But every once in a while, you just go ahead and you pull everything off of here, you blow it, wipe it down, wipe your tools down, put it back up there, and I've been real happy with it. This board right here actually is a cutoff from a piece of sugar pine that is actually a trim board on my house. I have an 1800s house. You've seen that in some of the videos, but so anyway, I wasn't gonna throw that piece of sugar pine away, and I properly laid out what I wanted and was able to put my tooling up there, and that's kind of the purpose there. And then my hole in the wall is actually how I get shafting, and I kind of get it slid through here and then back into this direction here, and you see my rest in the other room there, and you see the other side of the hole from the other side of the room there. And basically, sometimes I got short things, and I can go ahead and I can physically pull them back here and then pull them out here without going around the wall. But this is a little bit on the heavier side for an arm stretch outright. So I like to go ahead and go around the back and then either pull it out and carry it out from there, or angle it, set it here, and then I come and get it from this side here, depending on how I want to do that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead, pull that out of there, and then come back and we're going to get this chuck pulled off. I keep my small spanner wrench back there hanging on that brace right there. It kind of keeps it out of the way. It's always handy. And first thing we do before we put the eye bolt and stuff in here usually is to put the lathe in low gear. That way I can break this. And most of the time I don't need a hammer or something. I just the weight of the wrench gives me the capabilities of breaking the nut loose. After you break the nut loose, you got to hit it again after you've got it bowed out, and it breaks the chuck loose from the taper. Kind of a two-step there. Now I go ahead and freewheel it so I can put my eye bolt in here. And we'll bring over our hook here. Okay, now this, we still keep this wet. We always make sure that this has enough oil and stuff on it so it doesn't rust up on us. And this has got a light sheen on it right now. It'll go back underneath here, and we'll blow or clean out the chips that were usually under it. And we keep it directly right underneath our lathe right here. Sometimes it does build up with a slight bit of rust on it, but I don't want to drench it down with oil because it gets a lot of dust. and I just don't want it to be caked up on there. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to prep up this. Alright, nice and clean there, and not a whole bunch, just a light little squirt of Zep 45 on there, just for the moisture. And I'm going to come out here just a little bit. There we go. Okay, log it back down into low gear. And this here I use nothing more than my body weight. And good jump on it like that. We'll do another one, but we want to take this truck or key out here. And here's where you change these around, and this is so you only have the one that you're dealing with in your hand. Alright, we're free to move our gantry now. We're happy with our measurements and our sanding, our layout lines we've done there, and we moved our gantry here now so that we have plenty of room to work at the mill. I'm going to bring this in, and this is just a 1/2 inch parallel, and this is going to let us align this in the vise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a couple gloves here so I can kneel down, and so I can get a good straight eye right here. And I'm moving some of our tooling that we're going to be talking about and cutters over here, so I got my hand capable of coming in here, and we're going to slightly loosen this, and we're bringing that line that's laid out on there parallel to there. And we want it to be a 1/2 inch off the table minimum, so we want to have a good hold of this. We're going to be doing 3 holes sets in here. This has to be off the bottom of the vise here, because we're going to have a drill passing all the way through here for a clearance and tapped hole, 3 places. So we've got our line here, and we're going to grab our small hammer here, and with slight tension here, we're just going to tap the front of this down here to where we're happy. Alright, now we can go ahead and tighten our vise down. This is where we're going to stay, and this is where the complete job is going to be done in this location here. Alright, we're going to grab our edge finder, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to touch off of here, and we're going to take a square and come off of here, and we're going to get our first location, which is 0, and then our whole 3 holes will be in relationship to that in the drawing. And of course the drawing is protected by ownership, and I'm not getting any details with the configuration of anything on here, just how I'm going about doing this project for this two-piece support bearing for the rudder itself. Okay, we Sharpied up that whole surface there. We're going to lay out our split line. We've already come over with our edge finder and we found 0, and this is just a tap follower, but we like to use it for a pointer, and it's set up basically to be center line this way here. Now we got to pick our starting point here, and we'll start out our hole pattern and lay that out in reference to where we want the center of that hole. I'm going to take it that that hole is pretty much where they want it to be. This whole thing is laid out in 16ths, and this is 1/200. So if we set this at 600, which is half of that, and held a parallel up here like this, slid it over till we touched, that should be 0. And we put our scribe line right there. Alright, now the next, or the first hole over from the main hole is 1 2/16 or 1 1/8. And I'm going to go ahead and just scale that, because this thing is within a 16th, and these are just drill holes. Now that's just a little bit off of being center there, and by the drawing it does say to be center, but we do have more of this diameter come out, so we're just gonna have to rely on the pattern maker and the casting that he put in there. And it does, this looks pretty uniform to this thickness to that thickness. Looks pretty uniform. Okay, first hole. Second hole is 1 4/16, which is 1 1/4. And our next one is 4, by the drawing it says 4 4/16. There we go, 4 1/4. And we call that center. Alright, we got a good mark there. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a Sharpie so that we can cross grid where these holes are going to be. First one, second one, and the last one. And I'm taking my dimension there, lining up that scribe on that one, and scribe on that one. Now our center, we're just going to check this one. The center should be 730. Both of those came out equal. And this will be our first hole location. Alright, we can actually set that 0 and we'll be able to go to each one of our other ones there as well. Alright, we got our starter drill in here and we're set up on our first location. And we're going to be drilling straight on through, 1/4 inch on all 3 of these holes, and then we're going to be drilling out the first half down here with the 5/16. That's going to be the bolt size. And then countersink it, and then run down and tap it. Here is going to be drill through, countersink, and then that'll be drilled and tapped on both the lower sides. So all the screws will go in from one side, and they'll be different lengths because of this width difference from start to finish. Then it'll be finished off. That's their job of getting the fasteners and all that. So I'm just following the drawing, and then we're going to have to get a dummy bolt in here so that we can do the finished boring when we're all done. Alright, so I'm just explaining that real quick while I go ahead and knock out these holes here. Alright, we finished that hole, and now we're moving over to these other two holes. Now this is kind of hanging out there, and we want to go ahead and put a little screw jack here, and we have a little spacer there. And we can hold this here and stick our little scribe in these line right here, or these holes right here, and just enough to hold some pressure so it's solid and it doesn't flex. Okay, we're going to go down a little bit because it looks like we're going to have to lengthen our drill bit down here a little bit, and this slopes up a little bit here. Okay, so 1 4/16 plus 4 4/16 would be 5 1/2. So we got 5 1/2 right there. See how that flexes a little bit right there? If I didn't have that underneath there, it would really be pushing it down. We're not racing. We can wait for it to pierce a little bit. Okay. Alright, now the 5/16, we're going to go ahead and we're going to engage our quill feet so that we can manually control it so it doesn't suck the bit on us. See how it wants to like suck it, see? But because we got that control, we can keep it under control. Okay, back to our 1 1/4. Same thing again. Alright, to our 0. Alright, now this I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crank it, and when it gets down here to the beginning, alright, we're flush with that edge there. I'm going to go ahead and set my travel dial here, or my quill dial, to 0, and we're only going to want to take this to a depth 1/875. 1 inch 1/875. 1 inch, 100, 875. There we go. Alright, now we'll go ahead and we're going to run our tap down through there, and I'm going to go see if I have a long 5/16 tap to make that distance there, or if I'm going to actually have to somewhat fudge it from the other side. This one here we can run down through there. We'll get rid of the Alright, we slipped the tap in there and we're just coming in from the side here, and we're probably going to have to pull the wrench handle off of here or something. We'll see when we get down here. I don't know how much threads we can actually get. That's going to be enough anyway. The threads will be started in here, so after we split this we'll be able to run the tap in, so I'm sure that we got full threads past the halfway mark, and we can do this without the next two holes are the ones I want to see if we can drop the tap in and get those threaded from this one direction here, so that the threads for the bolt are in line with the threads on the other side, with the thing in the stress relieved, atmosphere here. Alright. We may be able to, I'm going to go get a regular wrench that will fit on this, and we can probably crank this down to where the flat is capable of getting it on the other side, and then going through and grabbing the wrench down here. We took this over the box and got a wrench, and you can see that we got enough here, little pressure here, we can get the tap started. And the hole still guides the tap. So the main thing is if I can get this down and then I can grab it underneath here without locking the tap up. Maybe not. I don't want to lose the tap. After we split it, we'll just put the tap back in from this side here and continue on through. Just like the first hole. Alright, see the second hole here? If this had a hole in the end of it, we could have a tap follower following that one as well. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and call that good on the tap for right now, and we'll run the tap in the openings after we get this split in two. The last thing we do before we pull our drill chuck out is going to go ahead and put the countersink in here for our screws that they want to go through here. Now I'm going to go ahead and spot this down a little at a time, and I'm going to lock this in also. I don't want this to grab. This is stout stuff, and this is not a real sharp countersink here. I'm going to go break this edge on here with a new grind and see if I can sharpen this up a little bit. Alright, all we did was just barely kiss it just to crisp that surface right there. And here again, I'm going to engage it so we don't accidentally suck it. Brand new crisp edge kind of seems to do the trick a little bit. A little tiny bit more. Alright, I think we're good, ready to set up our slitting saw and start cutting this thing off. Alright, we're getting ready to cut our split line here, and I wanted to go ahead and show you a few different holders for slitting saws, and that's what we're going to use, the slitting saw. I believe we can get to our halfway depth here with most of our attachments here. And this here is the slitting saw for 3/4 inch diameter, and that's that diameter right there, the inner circle, and then you have the draw bolt here, and that sandwiches it. This Allen's actually a little short for this one here, but I got it set in here because I believe I interchanged to either or from this side here. This one here has got a 3-inch diameter, 1/16 thickness, 1 inch. 1 inch is the bore size. So that's what's on this one here. Now here's a homemade job, and this is 3/4 inch, just like this one and this one here. And they created a threaded nut, a giant nut here, so that they can tension that. And this right here happens to be a pretty wide cutter for this tool right here, but this nut being real narrow, you can see protrudes out a lot less than there. And this is what I'm thinking I'm going to come in here and cut this because it's shallow, and I've left myself a 1/2 inch here, and I believe that this will clear the mill table jaw as I come by and I cut this. So I'm thinking about using this. I'm going to set that up in a minute. I just wanted to go ahead and hit a few other things. Now, of course, some of this stuff I get in toolboxes, and somebody's custom made this. This is aluminum with a knurl here, and this is their cap and their drawbar type setup. This is a giant cutter with curry. I mean, it's got some nicks and stuff like that. Somebody's dropped this, but this is in one of the boxes here, so I don't really know what the thinking was in this, and it could be plastic, it could be a lot of things that are softer and stuff like that than actually cutting into steel. And of course we're cutting into bronze, but this is pretty tough stuff as well. It's not the softest stuff to cut, but it is pretty stout as far as taking the amount of chip on it. Alright,